that if these 7 million plus had not been deleted,
Right.
then West Bengal share would have been voter turnout would have been 83%. It is equivalent to 83% because so many people were taken out of the electoral roll. Obviously, the percentage of turnout goes up. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu, again about 12% deletion, the real the percentage would be close to 72%, not 83. So this has to be kept in view instead of just jumping that we got the highest in history. I wish that was the case, but this is the reality of these figures.
These are very important points that you're saying, and we have done some maths. We've tried to see what's the kind of a deletion that's happened. And what you are saying is also, at the heart of what's been a voter issue, a very political issue, a very heated debate during these votings, whether it be in Tamil Nadu or phase one of West Bengal, around minus 11 percentage, roughly around that for both the states is what we are seeing. So essentially, Mr. Quraishi, what you are saying is, if these voter numbers would have been the same, if the deletions would not have happened, then it would not have been this historic. Now, what do you mean by this? Let me break this up. Let me try to make this easy. Are you then saying this was a good process that cleaned up the voting which should have been done? Or are you saying there are concerns?
No, no, these are two separate things. I'm just at the moment what I answered was the voter turnout and the reality of voter turnout. It has shot up to over 90%, 92% because of the 11, 12% deletion.
Correct.
For instance, suppose we say 80%, which is 80 out of 100. But suppose the 10 out of 100, 10 are removed and it is 80 out of 90, the percentage shoots up. So it's basically, and you have shown those figures,
Correct.
that in both the states it was more than 11, almost close to 12% deletion. The 12% deletions have jacked up the number of voters who turned out to vote. So that is the reality of this. The other question which you raised was about SIR itself, which I have been questioning that it has really caused turmoil in the country. It has played havoc with the system. And can the election commission vouch that the 7 million which have been deleted, which were not allowed to vote, they were not genuine voters? And they were all bogus voters, fake, dead, or duplicate voters. So wonderful, great job done. But can they really certify? Can they give an affidavit? Can that not one of them? The slogan of election commission for the last 20 years has been that not one voter to be left out. Here, 7 million plus in both the states, more than 7 million people have been deleted. Of course, there may be a few hundred which may be ineligible, or maybe a few thousand, but not 7 million, for God's sake. They're all bona fide Indian citizens, bona fide voters who have a constitutional right to be voters in the country. Article 326, which was quoted in the initial press conference, they should read the Article 326 that all of us shall be registered. That is the word, shall be registered. We're all, and if they have been deleted because the process could not be completed. Some millions of applications are pending with the tribunals. So now that is not the fault of a voter. If your tribunal could not finish it in time, if you could not finish the process in time, you should not have started the process. Or you should have started SIR if you were so fond of it in a state which was to go to poll 2 years later. Now, a state which is going to poll in the 2 months, 3 months, you started this exercise. And as something which I've been saying that, it has taken 30 years for successive election commissions, 30 years to achieve 99% accuracy. Now that all that has been thrown into the dustbin and the electoral is being created, manufactured from scratch from the beginning. Now what we did in 30 years, they want to do in 30 days or even 3 months. What are they talking about? And after putting everybody to inconvenience, after suicide of BLOs, there's so much of stress, some are resigning, and every voter made to run around looking for your father and your grandfather voting record and all that. So the total turmoil and all created.
I think very strong words coming from you, Qureshi Saab. Particularly, even as you have the EC saying that it is their constitutional duty to clean up the electoral rolls. That's one argument that they have been saying again and again, that beyond the political prism, not giving into the arguments around that, they have been just saying that it is their role, and this is an exercise that has been going on for a very long time. Very strong words coming from the former CEC as you speak what you do. Mr. Qureshi, there's another thing that I do want to ask you. Today, a lot was spoken about the violence as well in West Bengal. But many are arguing, despite the violence that has happened in West Bengal, this possibly would have been more of the quote unquote peaceful polls, by far the more peaceful polls. How do you look at this?
Well, with the kind of paramilitary which has been pumped into West Bengal, there should have been no violence. So what were these forces doing? Unprecedented, about 3-4 times the previous years. What were they doing? Why did violence take place in the first place? So that is another question mark. So you've deployed almost half of the paramilitary available in the country in just one state, and still there have been troubles which you are talking about.
But Mr. Qureshi, these have been belts that have witnessed extreme violence over the last several elections. These are
Yes,
belts, particularly some of these pockets that did go into voting for phase one, that's on the first phase of voting for West Bengal. There have been several instances of violence in the past. Do you think West Bengal uh, has moved on, or do you still think that there are huge concerns around this?
yes, yeah, there I agree with you that there are huge concerns, no doubt, because West Bengal traditionally has shown violence during elections. And when in our time, when I was in election commission for 6 years, when we used to analyze the data of West Bengal, we used to see that in the polling year, there will be 1,000, 1,100 poll murders. And on the day of the election, about 150 poll murders, which is why Tamil Nadu and West Bengal are equal size states, and of traditionally they go to the poll at the same time. And the ground reality of the two states being different, we do Tamil Nadu poll always in one phase, and the same size state of West Bengal we have been using 6-7 phases. And I appreciate that this time they have reduced the phases to only two, which is a good thing, because multiple phases which were the need of the hour then to save lives. Now the situation has changed in the social media age, because in the gap of 4 or 5 days, what happens is the paramilitary forces take the 4 or 5 days to move from one booth to the other. The strongmen and the gundas reach there in a few hours. So with just as we were using phases as a force multiplier, the gundas were also operating on the same principle, and which is why uh, one sensible thing which election commission did was to reduce the number of phases to two and finish the election quickly, because one is that it is more violence prone if there are many phases, because they move faster. That's one thing. Secondly, in the social media age, the fake news and the hate speech is spread so fast, it creates so much of problem. So, and as you know, within minutes, the state can be set on fire if there is a false story and a false news. So, which is what was happening, and for some time, we were all of us were concerned
Right.
that we how to bring down the phases.
Right. In fact, Mr. Qureshi, my last question to you. When we look at Tamil Nadu and when we look at West Bengal, two very different states, two very different political natures, a do or die battle for the political parties, test of personalities, a lot of aspects that are involved. But one common thread between the two is how the states have taken up SIR. Now, whatever the results come, do you see these results in the shadow of SIR? Why do I ask? Because this is also going to have ramifications in the Supreme Court. There's cases that are being heard even now in Supreme Court.
Well, SIR definitely will impact the results. For instance, if a particular community has been singled out for deletion, which traditionally vote for X party and not for the Y party. So if those names are deleted en masse, so obviously there will be an impact on the results, and perhaps that was the intention. So in our time, in every time, we have seen that strong armed people, even in UP, in Western UP, for instance, it was very common for strong men not to allow the Dalits to come out and vote. They will impose a kind of a curfew on that day. If anybody
Right,
comes out of the house today, we'll break your leg. With the
right.
result, the voter turnout of those people would go down. So all these things have an impact on the ultimate result.
Right. Mr. Qureshi, thank you so much. In fact, if I can ask my team if they can bring up that graphic as well of what the CEC has said today. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, for bringing in your perspectives. Dance of democracy, as we call voting for. Important questions around it, but a decisive mandate really from both the states. Thank you so much, sir.